This is the third type of non-proportional reinsurance program. Today I will show you how a stop-loss non-proportional excess of loss insurance, reinsurance. So previously we have looked at per risk excess of loss reinsurance or working excess of loss, and then we have also learned on how catastrophic excess of loss reinsurance works. And this is the third type of excess of loss reinsurance method, but it is a bit different from the other two. And sometimes it is called excess of loss ratio, and sometimes it is called stop loss. And why there is a word ratio there? Because this reinsurance is based on claim ratio. Okay, so what is claim ratio? We will look at that. So it is called excess of loss ratio, or also it is called stop loss, or sometimes there is a longer name for that, annual aggregate excess loss. Annual aggregate because it looks at the total claim ratio for 1 year for reinsurance to get involved in paying claims. They will have to refer to the total annual claims ratio for that particular year. So all reinsurance arrangement before this is based on per risk, or you call it working excess, or per event, or catastrophic excess of loss. But in the case of stop loss, it is not based on per risk. It has nothing to do with per event, but it is based on total loss for that particular year, or aggregate loss. And this total loss is indicated by a claim ratio. So stop loss is used to protect a very heavy loss on aggregate basis on the risk protected over that 1 year treaty period. So it has nothing to do with individual risk. It has nothing to do with individual event. It is very specific, and it is used particularly in specific line of insurance business, such as hail insurance or crop business. So normally agriculture insurance or agriculture reinsurance, like the crops, paddy fields or rubber. So any agriculture activities which has insurance on that, there is a risk of damage to crops as a result of adverse weather such as flood or heavy rain, or maybe during season where there is no rain, when the crops will get damaged. So these are the uh, types of property or types of agriculture protected by the insurance, and this is very very suitable for the stop loss reinsurance to protect this type of subject matter. Okay, so it is used to cover against fluctuations of claims or frequent unforeseen rise in claims. So seasonal damage can is it is not easy to predict. Like there are certain months with drought season where there is no rain, so the crops will get damaged, or there are certain months with heavy rain, like hujan monsoon, where it also will cause damage to crops. So this is, there can be fluctuation of claim. There are certain months with heavy rains, so the crops will get damaged, and a certain month with no rain, and also might cause damage. But the thing is, it is very difficult to predict, the weather, or the sources of the peril which cause loss to this crop. So if the aggregate loss in that year exceeds a fixed percentage in terms of deductible, the reinsurer will assume the excess portion. So it is similar when it comes to the mechanism it is similar because it has deductible and it has the maximum cover. It is similar to the other two excess of loss reinsurance program, but for stop loss, it refers to what I mentioned earlier, claim ratio, not the value of claims, not in terms of monetary value, but but reinsurance, or what you call that, claims is paid by the reinsurer depends on claim ratio. So what is claim ratio? So claims ratio is actually claims incurred by the insurer divided by the earned premium for that particular portfolio times 100%. Very simple. So the formula of loss ratio here, you have accounted this formula many times. So again, loss ratio is a formula of claims incurred for that year divided by earned premium times 100%. So this is the mechanism of stop loss. This is the deductible point, or they call it stop loss point, meaning that if the loss ratio does not exceed 70%, or let's say 40% or 50% loss ratio, there's going to be no reinsurance recovery. Reinsurance recovery will only occur or will only happen if the loss ratio exceed this stop loss point. Let's say the loss ratio is 75 or 73 or 80% or 90%. So the point or the percentage or which exceed this stop loss point will be covered by the reinsurer. But reinsurer will only cover up to 110% loss ratio. For example, if the loss ratio is, let's say, 85%. So reinsurance recovery will be 110, sorry, 85%, 85% minus 85% minus 70%. Sorry, something wrong with this formula here. Okay, let's see. 85% minus 70%, they're going to be 15% recovery. Okay. So 15% of how much? 50% of how much? So that's the question. So how much recovery in terms of monetary value? We're going to look into that later. So deductible is called stop loss point. This is deductible. And the upper limit of cover, or the shilling, is the maximum cover. So this is the maximum cover provided by the reinsurer. Okay. Let's straight away look at the exercise here. So the loss ratio formula, as I've shown earlier, this is the formula. So stop loss cover may be expressed as to pay the amount of loss in excess of 80% loss ratio up to 120% loss ratio. So we know that 120% is the maximum cover, 80% is the stop loss point or the deductible. So reinsurance cover will be 120 minus 80%. So reinsurance cover will be 40%, which is the difference between the limit and the stop loss point. If we convert it into monetary value, if we know the premium income, so we can know in terms of monetary value, 80% is equal to 800,000. 80% of this 1 million, and the upper limit 120% will be 1.2 million. 120% of this premium income. Insurance cover is 40%, meaning that 40% of the premium income is 400,000. So earned premium, let's say, earned premium is 1 million, incurred loss is 950, so it's very easy to calculate loss ratio. It's 950,000 minus 1 million times 100%. So the loss ratio for that year is, for example, 95%. So actual loss ratio has exceeded the stop loss point, 95%. So 80% here is the stop loss point or the deductible. Insurer will retain the loss ratio not more than 80%. So 95%, 95% is the loss ratio minus the stop loss point, 15%. So reinsurer is paying 15% loss ratio. So 50% of what? Here, there's a question of how much will be the recovery. So 50% of this 1 million. So how do you get this 1 million? This 1 million is the premium income or premium earned. So reinsurance recovery will be 15% of 1 million. So the answer is recovery will be 150,000. So it looks very simple. It's quite simple. So let's look at this simple exercise. So reinsurer agree to protect the account for 2005 where stop loss exceeds 110% after all other reinsurance protection has been taken into account. The policy includes a maximum recovery based on a loss ratio of 140%. So from here, can you identify the stop loss point? So the stop loss point here is 110. And can you identify the maximum cover? So the maximum cover is 140%. So in 2005, the premium income is 1 million and the claims incurred is 1.2 million. So if the reinsurer has restricted any claim to 90% thereof, calculate the amount due from the reinsurance. Very easy. So the first thing you need to do is to calculate the loss ratio. For example, loss ratio is claim incurred. So how much is the claim incurred here? 1.2. Claims amounted to 1.2. Divide by the earned premium. The earned premium here is 1 million. 1 million. Put a bracket times 100%. So the loss ratio for that particular 3 year is 120%. So reinsurance recovery is 120 minus the stop loss point 110. So 10% loss ratio is the recovery. So that's going to be 0.1 or 10% times the premium income of 1 million. So it will be 100,000. So, but again, if you notice here, it mentions that the reinsurer has restricted any claim to 90% thereof. So meaning that reinsurance recovery will only be 90% of this 100,000. So this is the reinsurance recovery. So meaning that the other 10% of this 100% is retained by the insurer. So meaning that reinsurer is not paying 100% of this recovery because they will limit it by certain percentage. For example, 10% or it could be 15, it could be 20%. So it depends on the contract. Okay. So I think that is all. The lecture is very short lecture for stop loss point. You might want to try some of the questions in the past year if you want to. So okay, so Until we meet again, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.